Quick question. Given the chance to reincarnate into a new world, would you take it? However, there's a catch. The reincarnation world is a complete gamble. It could be a world of swords and magic, cultivation world, or maybe one of absolute horror. Given that chance, would you still take it? Let me know the answer in the comments below. Anyway, on to the video. At the Shinkan Alliance Southern Branch, a weary young traveler arrives, scanning the seemingly empty base and wondering where everyone could be. After all, this was supposed to be the assembly point for their mission. The traveler is Shinkan Sho, codename Lizard, and his role is intelligence. Sho's musings are interrupted by the appearance of a towering figure, who, flexing his bulging arms, sarcastically remarks, "I heard this mission was supposed to be tough, but here we've got a total rookie showing up." Sho, acknowledging the new arrival, quickly bows and introduces himself, giving more information than necessary: his name, age, and even mentioning his homeland, Mido country. The mysterious figure, who turns out to be Shinkan Senmun, codename Tombstone, burdened with the role of rescue, quips that it's been a while since they had a rookie. These days, most people become demon swords the moment they awaken. Sho, glancing around warily, whispers a reminder that the Shinkan Alliance forbids talking about the 12 divine beasts and demonic swords. Senmun scoffs, saying, "What's the point in eliminating yokai if we can't even mention the 12 divine beasts and the demonic swords we become?" Sho, dejected, comments that the rumors must be true. The Alliance deliberately avoids discussing the 12 divine beasts. Senmun confirms this, explaining that for senior members who've already gained wealth and fame, it's not worth risking war with the divine beasts. He advises Sho, telling him that no matter what the higher-ups are doing, he should develop a sense of duty to save people, not just chase money or power. "It's the best way to avoid becoming a corrupt demonic sword," he adds. Sho, like an obedient student, nods. Then, circling back, he asks, "How did you know I was a rookie? Was it because of my new Shinkan uniform?" Senmun smirks. "I'll tell you if you can draw your sword." Sho, eager to accept the challenge, takes a stance, causing a light breeze and dust cloud to form around him. With a serious face, he reaches for his ribcage where his sword begins to emerge. Finally, he draws his weapon, a gigantic blade with serrations like a massive saw. But the act doesn't come without a price, as his brand new uniform is torn to shreds. Sho, horrified, cries out over his ruined uniform, while Senmun bursts out laughing. "That's how I knew you were a rookie," Senmun says. "Your uniform doesn't have any alterations for drawing your sword." Sho, still bitter, retorts, "You could have just told me that instead of making me destroy my uniform." Senmun chuckles, saying, "It's better to experience it firsthand than be told 1,000 times. Get your uniform altered unless you want to destroy it every time you draw your sword." Reading between the lines, Sho asks if Senmun draws his sword from his left arm. Senmun just laughs, replying, "Maybe it's a trick to confuse my opponents." Noticing new arrivals, Senmun challenges Sho, asking if he can guess where the two newcomers draw their swords. Sho admits he can't tell just by looking, and Senmun uses this as a teachable moment, saying, "Not being able to predict where the sword draw comes from is one of the basic tactics of Shinkan." I don't blame Sho, though, because the new arrivals turn out to be absolute mommies, seemingly in contrast to each other. They are the slutty Shinkan Maki and the conservative Shinkan Shion. Maki complains about their first field deployment being a group mission, which would reduce her number of prey. Shion, ever the pragmatist, agrees, grumbling about having to split the reward, emphasizing her nickname, Lone Shark. Gazing mischievously at her friend, Maki suggests they spar after the mission to settle their previous fight. Shion immediately declines, refusing anything that doesn't bring her money. Maki, knowing her well, teases, "Too bad, I was going to wager my earnings from this mission." Falling for the bait, Shion accepts the challenge, proposing a best-of-3 match. I don't want to go on without acknowledging this panel. Damn. I almost excused myself to use the bathroom real quick. Maki Mami for the win. Sho, still a bit green, turns to Senmun and asks, "Didn't you just say Shinkan shouldn't chase after money and power?" Senmun, a bit embarrassed, replies, "Well, there are always some exceptions." Switching the subject, Senmun warns Sho that revealing his sword as soon as someone asks is also a rookie mistake. A Shinkan sword form is a key tactic. Don't show it carelessly. Sho points to a figure holding a drawn sword and asks, "Then why is that person's sword out?" The figure in question, an absolute Chad striking a cool pose, is Shin-Gyeom niece, codename Goldeye. His role, protection. Senman replies that for someone as goated as him, such tactics are unnecessary. He further explains that the reason a rookie like Sho was allowed to join this high-difficulty mission was mostly because Nice would be joining them. Sho, curious, asks Senman if he knows Nice. The latter replies that he does, though this is the first time seeing him in person. We learn that in the early days, the Shin'Gyeom Alliance bestowed a title to the 9 strongest Shin'Gyeom members who were tasked with combating the 12 divine beasts. They were the 9 heavenly swords. However, 2 of the 9 betrayed the alliance and became demonic swords. Their positions have remained vacant to this day. Recently, however, 2 absolute geniuses have risen with remarkable achievements and feats, and are widely considered as candidates for the 9 heavenly swords. One of them is said to have white hair and gold eyes. I'm sure you all know who he is, our boy Yuhwa. Curious, Sho asks if Nice is a candidate for the 9 heavenly swords, and Senman confirms this. His blindfold probably hides his golden eyes. Sho looks contemplative, and Senman notices. You envious of the title of 9 heavenly swords? Sho quickly denies it, saying, I'm just a rookie. Senman then points out another rookie mistake, revealing his name and origin right away. He gestures toward a strange fellow wearing a beast mask, lazily resting on the roof. That's Shin'Gyeom Unknown, role protection, code name, Inukamen. Notice how he keeps his identity hidden. A sudden voice calls the group to attention. A noble MILF mommy, elegant and commanding, announces the mission briefing. Her partner explains that the mission is to exorcise yokai in Fog Village, in the domain of Tsukaba, and investigate the cause of their appearance. The reward: 1 coin per yokai and an additional 50 coins if they can resolve the root of the problem. Lone Shark perks up at the mention of the generous reward, while Sho is puzzled. 3 coins could cover a family's monthly expenses. Senman, more experienced, comments, that probably means the mission is dangerous. The noble mommy informs them that the transit carriage is ready, and they should depart soon. As they watch the carriage leave, the noble MILF asks her partner, who turns out to be her grandfather, if everything will be all right. They had experienced multiple failures in the mission after all. The Chad grandpa tells her not to worry, this time will be different. They've assigned a monitor from the Alliance, and most importantly, the goat Nice is with them. The scene shifts to Fog Village, a beautiful but eerily deserted place bathed in the glow of the setting sun. Senman comments on the odd quietness for a village known for its hot springs, and the village chief explains it's due to the yokai attacks, which have driven away tourists and forced villagers indoors. Lone Shark, quick to note the contradiction, points out the surprising generosity of the village's reward despite its desperate situation. Sho adds that as a tourist spot, the village probably charged exorbitant prices, but the chief denies this, saying the reward is funded personally by Lord Tsukaba. Nize, stepping ahead of the group, told them that they had a few guests they needed to welcome first before proceeding. Drawing his sword, he stood tall before a full pack of yokai, thirsty for blood. The yokai, responding to his challenge, charged forward, their heavy bodies moving with frightening agility for creatures of their size. Senman, unbothered by the charge, quipped that judging by their timing, one might assume they arrived early and were waiting for them. Sho replied, saying the timing was indeed suspicious. The 2 mommy, not ones to overthink things, quickly leaped to join the fight, as the yokai stones were taken by the ones who captured them after all. Beast Mask also swiftly joined the fight, leaving Sho and Senman behind. The rookie, eager to prove his skills, geared up to join the fight as well, but was stopped by Senman. He instructed Sho to stay behind and protect the chief. He should watch and learn from the veterans instead. As a yokai charged at him, Senman coolly drew his sword, taunting the yokai for choosing the wrong opponent as he readied his attack. Leaping at the yokai, he swung his sword in quick succession, landing multiple blows on the yokai's head. The yokai, tanking the hits, countered with a right jab to Senman's face, which he barely blocked. The veteran, with his blood boiling, called the yokai impressive, saying it was worthy for him to reveal his true strength against it. I know it might seem flashy, but honestly, if you paid attention, you'd know that Senman, the veteran, was actually pathetically weak. Compared to the others, he was barely surviving. We switched to our busty Mami Maki, dodging a claw attack from the yokai. From her leaning position, sparks appear on her palm, indicating a sword being drawn. True to form, a blade arcs through the air, perfectly stabbing a yokai through the skull. Our busty mommy, now squatting, doesn't give the yokai time to counter. She swiftly rises, unleashing her signature technique. One sword, one kill. Numerous different swords emerge from all over her body, floating around her. With swords in hand, she blitzes through the yokai, landing precise headshots. Wherever she passes, turns into a burial ground for the yokai, all killed by a single blade through the skull. Her devastating rampage is stopped, however, by a giant yokai, one vastly bigger than the rest. Maki, akin to an ant in its presence, curses. Although flashy, her technique had a really long cooldown, leaving her completely defenseless. The yokai, capitalizing on her weakness, unleashes a mighty punch towards her. The punch, only halfway through, is stopped by a whip sword latching onto the yokai's arm, digging deep and drawing blood. At the end of the whip sword is our conservative mommy Shion, gliding through the air, giving the folks some great fan service. Pulling on the sword, Shion is propelled towards the giant yokai. Performing a drift maneuver, she glides across the yokai's body, leaving a deep cut in her wake. Jumping back from the creature, she pulls on the sword and completely splits it in two, blood and body chunks flying everywhere. True to her loan shark name, she swiftly reaches for her notebook, listing down the life-saving measures she'd just performed, intending to charge Maki for it later. Maki denies the claim, insisting she wouldn't die from a mere yokai. Over at the boy's side, a mighty blow, glowing in a blue aura, squarely lands on a yokai's head, easily bashing it in. This was the Thunder Fist by Beastmask. Nice and Beastmask, like a well-oiled machine, effortlessly dispatch the yokai, their prey's limbs dropping like flies. Continuing his charge, Beastmask performs the lightning headbutt, delivering a blow to the yokai powerful enough to curve its face in. He proceeds with the simple kick technique, sending the yokai flying. Nice, having finished chopping a yokai's head off, yells at Beastmask, telling him to stop making up weird names for his techniques and just draw out his sword. Beastmask, now choking the lights out of a yokai, replies that he's one to talk. The sword Nisi was wielding was just a normal sword and not one drawn from his body. Nice, being the goat, calls Beastmask perceptive. He says that he'd vowed not to draw his sword until he avenged his master. Hearing his reason, Beastmask calls him impressive as well. I'm not sure if you guys have picked up on it yet, but obviously these two are Ren and Yuhwa. It's actually pretty obvious. Back to Sho and the chief, the latter is scared by a dead yokai. Sho comforts him, telling him he wouldn't be defeated by such a yokai. He had no reason to worry. Noticing the chief's sullen face, he remarks that the chief seemed more frightened by something else other than the yokai. This accusation deeply startled the chief. He asked what Sho meant, but the rookie downplays it, telling him not to worry about it. We see that the squad is finished with their warm-up. Maki Mami complained about her clothes getting dirty, while Lone Shark is busy tallying her kills, preparing for the reward. Maki, eyeing her clothes, said she'd like to wash up before eating. Shion, still tallying her kills, teases her, telling her she was too flashy in the fight. Senman, bloody, commented that it was unnecessary for them to get involved. They could have managed without them. Beastmask, however, quickly calls him out on his BS, reminding him that he fought to the death against only one yokai. The chief, appreciative of their efforts, welcomes them to use the hot springs as they await their meals. Beastmask complains, saying he wanted to eat first before washing up. Senman accepts the chief's invitation, saying it's a good thing he's covered in yokai blood. Sir? I believe that's your blood. Later on in the hot springs, Maki Mami, with a nosebleed moment, soaks in the steamy water. She remarks that she's definitely more suited for field work than office work. Soaking up in a hot spring after a fight is what she needed. Shion, adding a little feast for the eyes, questions her, asking if she didn't find the mission odd. Maki nonchalantly brushes it off, saying they should just knock out any problem they'd come across. She turns to Shion, telling her she's always overthinking things. Shion teasingly comments that with a monitor like her, the alliance was going downhill. Maki, switching topics, commented on something the Chads actually want to know about. She asked Shion if her chest grew bigger. Shion, embarrassed, asked why she was suddenly talking about her chest. Why don't they talk about the steam covering all the good stuff? Over at the boys' side, the guys are just chilling in the water, enjoying the lack of soundproofing. Senman, gazing at Beastmask, asked where Sho was. He was with him earlier. Beastmask simply replied that the rookie went to check on something. The scene takes a grotesque shift, with a bloody severed arm laying on the floor. Turns out the arm belongs to Sho, who finds himself in a rather precarious situation, facing a giant yokai, one vastly bigger and more powerful than the others. Helpless in his dire situation, the beast swiftly swallows him whole. Early the next morning, the squad, led by the chief, stared solemnly at the severed and discarded hand of Sho. The chief informed them that a villager had stumbled upon it on his way to the farm. He hypothesized that it might belong to Sho, the squad's missing companion. Without a word, and with only concerned faces, the squad collectively stared at the bloody arm. Senman, always the fake veteran, analyzed that based on the arm's elasticity and muscle strength, it should belong to Sho. Honestly, I don't know if this guy is pulling a god Usopp, or if he's the real deal. Nyes chimed in, saying the probability of Sho still being alive was very low. Shion agreed, highlighting the lack of signs of struggle or abduction nearby. Maki Mami joined the conversation, questioning Beastmask, and asking if he was the last to see Sho alive. Beastmask admitted to this, clarifying that Sho had left to investigate something after they entered the hot springs. Shion noted that it was a common mistake by hot-blooded rookies to go solo on their investigation and end up dead. Nise interrupted their mini-discussion, saying the arm had been cut off by a single swift blade. To achieve that, the yokai responsible must be of a higher grade than the ones they fought the previous day. Despite his serious analysis, the trio of Mommies and Beastmask just looked at him in shock, puzzling our boy. Maki Mami, with her bouncy plot, exclaimed in surprise, asking Nisi if he could see what was in front of him, referring to his blindfolded state. Nise nonchalantly replied that the fabric used in the blindfold was see-through. He just didn't like lights. He further pointed out that even when they were traveling to the village the previous day, he had to complete half the journey driving the carriage after the chief got lost. The squad, obviously disappointed, had different reactions to his truthful declaration. Senman said something about the cloth hiding his golden eyes, but no one cares about that. Let's focus on our mommies. Our busty mommy, Maki, stated that if he wore a blindfold, then it was only logical to open a third eye, vehemently gesticulating her meaning. Our other mommy, Shion, disappointedly commented that the blindfold wasn't a power-sealing one but a light-blocking one. Beastmask, ever the weird one, stated that the blindfold should have awakened the power of darkness within Nise. Nise, having had enough of their useless chatter, shouted at them to shut up. Picking up the severed arm, he opted to leave before the squad's idiocy caught up to him. He further highlighted that the marks on the arm proved the opponent was not a yokai, something Senman actively agreed with, speculating that it might be the work of a yosu or, in the worst-case scenario, a yokai. Beastmask, confused by their ramblings, asked what they were talking about, and what the so levels they were spouting were. The two mommies asked how he had been doing Shinkan activities without knowing such basics. Senman aka God Usopp dropped some exposition, highlighting the different levels of yokai. They were divided into 4 groups. The 4th-grade yokai were mindless creatures with low intelligence and normally attacked in groups. The 3rd-grade yosu usually acted alone, had basic intelligence, and could speak. The 2nd-grade yokai had considerable intelligence and fluency in language, often disguising themselves as humans after feasting on them. The 1st-grade phantom yokai were literally phantom yokai. I don't exactly know what that means, but our busty mommy said it, so I'll just go with it. In history, phantom yokai had only shown up twice, both times ending in disaster with failed subjugations. Particularly in the case of Shuten Doji, who went up against 300 Shinkan and led to them losing 90% of their power. Shion Mami explained that humanity survived even after the failed subjugations, because the phantom yokai didn't seem particularly interested in humans. Senman, bringing everyone back on topic, noted that the situation in the village pointed to a high-grade yokai's involvement. Per the Alliance's rules, they needed at least 6 Shinkan to proceed with the investigation. Since Sho was missing, they had to cancel the mission. Shion agreed, stating that completing the mission while going against the Alliance's rules meant they wouldn't be rewarded. Senman corroborated her deduction, stating that rewards aside, failing to follow the rules might lead to other penalties. The The village chief, sensing the odd change in the air, worriedly asked if the squad would abandon them. Beastmask reassured him, saying he didn't care about the rules, he'd simply defeat all the yokai. Maki Mommy, who turns out to be a battle-crazy mommy, said she'd stay for the village's peace. However, from her perverted grin and blushed face, we know she's getting hot and bothered by her lust for battle. Cheyenne Mommy, who initially wanted to give up on the mission due to a lack of reward, immediately doubled back after hearing about the exuberant rewards promised. Senman, grabbing Beastmask by the shirt, gloomily said he'd seen countless Shinkan who'd lost their lives because of such reckless bravado. He still remembered their miserable end. Beastmask, unfazed, commented that it was good if he remembered such heroic Shinkan who didn't give up, despite facing inevitable death. Senman, seeing no peaceful resolution to the problem, drew his sword, planning to stop the squad by force. Maki interrupted their standoff, saying that Sho getting killed by a yokai was just speculation. During such group missions, it wasn't uncommon for a dark blade to appear, targeting their group members instead of the enemy. She speculated that there could be a dark blade among them. Cheyenne, gearing up for battle, told Maki not to create false justifications for a fight, as it would hinder their mission. Beastmask chimed in, saying that if there was a dark blade, it would be Senman. No Shinkan would so easily give up on their comrade. Senman, reacting to the accusation, drew his sword and swung it at Beastmask, instructing him to take off his suspicious mask before accusing him. Beastmask, easily catching Senman's attack barehanded, rebutted that the suspicious one was Senman. It made no sense for a Shinkan to be as weak as him. Maki, the battle-lust mommy, took advantage of the heated exchange. Charging at the duo, she drew her sword and delivered an attack at them both, saying they could easily figure out the dark blade by duking it out. Her nonsensical words enraged both Beastmask and Senman, who asked her what the hell she was even talking about. Before Maki could cause any more mayhem, two whip swords emerged from her shadow, swiftly binding her. The culprit for this attack was Cheyenne, using her shadow detection art, false imprisonment. She didn't mind Maki making up excuses to satisfy her battle lust, but she wouldn't tolerate her threatening their mission and reward. The village chief, watching all the chaos, asked Nisi if he wasn't going to stop the fight. Our boy, still nonchalant, told him not to worry. He explained that those who awakened Shinkan abilities become more aggressive in the face of others' deaths, and it is this aggression that drives them to continue battling yokai. Staring silently at the fighting group, he told the chief not to worry. He wasn't like those mindlessly fighting guys. Saying so, he drew his sword and promptly sheathed it again, causing a loud bang that immediately drew the group's attention, ending the fight. With their attention drawn to him, he informed the group that even if there was a dark blade, they'd handle it when it revealed itself. As for the mission at hand, they didn't have to follow the Alliance's recommendations. The squad collectively knew what he meant, as the Heavenly Swords or their candidates didn't have to follow the Alliance's recommendation. They could act independently. Their tense moment was interrupted by the shouts of little kids calling out for their grandpa. The children, a boy and a girl, ran towards the squad, marveling at meeting real Shinkan. The old man, noticing the squad's puzzled gazes, explained that his daughter had died a few years ago, and now the two were his only blood relatives. Squatting to welcome his grandkids, the chief asked what they were doing there. They were supposed to wait for him at home. The older of the two, the girl, answered that Manabu, the boy, wanted to see the Shinkan. The boy in question, Manabu, was busy marveling at the sight of the squad, calling them cool. His sister rebuked him, instructing him to show proper etiquette for meeting adults. The young boy, startled from his reverie, quickly bowed to the group. Our battle-lust mommy, face blushed from the children's cuteness, received a teasing remark from Shion, saying that she apparently liked something other than fighting. Maki, squatting to talk to the cute bundles of joy, asked them for their names. The oldest answered that she was Natsuki, 7 years old, and her brother was Manabu, 4 years old. The chief, hoping to send them off, asked them to head back home, but Manabu refused, saying he wanted to play with Maki. Well, I don't blame him. I'd like to play with Maki Mommy too. Nisei, calling out to the chief, asked him for a favor. He wanted to split the group into two and investigate the village, and he wanted the children to guide them. The chief, obviously reluctant, wanted to refuse, but Manabu swiftly agreed, volunteering for the job. Natsuki told him not to worry. she'd look after Manabu. Though still worried, the chief could only reluctantly accept. We get a cool montage of the group splitting up and investigating the village. From the residence to the fields, they went at it until sunset, and the day was done. Back at the inn, we see Beastmask sprawled out on the floor, lamenting his exhaustion, saying hunting yokai would have been easier. The two mommies, walking into the inn, asked how his investigation went, and if he'd discovered something unusual. Beastmask immediately pointed an aggrieved finger at Nisei, accusing the latter of saying he was going to investigate the village, only to spend the whole time chatting with the chief. Nisei replied that he wanted to confirm his suspicions about the chief. Maki chimed in, saying that the chief was definitely suspicious. She noted a strange caution when he interacted with his granddaughter. Shion, puzzled, asked how they could suspect the kids, especially with how they excitedly bragged to their friends about knowing Shinkan. She believed the Lord was the most suspicious, as spending so much money on the rewards wasn't normal. Beastmask, drawing their attention, informed them that the Lord wasn't weary of his granddaughter. He was worried about her. However, what puzzled him the most was that, despite walking around the village, the only children around were the two siblings. This revelation greatly shocked the group. Nisei urgently shot up, asking where the kids were. Shion replied that Senman had taken them home. As they prepared to act, Natsuki called out to them, informing them that Senman had a message for them. She innocently reported that Senman had pulled out of the mission and planned on returning home to make grave markers for his fallen comrades. Maki, startled, asked if the message was fake, but Shion rejected the idea, saying the code matched that of Senman. Nice, taking charge, asked Natsuki when her mother had died. The little girl, counting, answered that she had passed away when she was 2 years old. The group, doing the quick math, noted that it was 5 years ago. Yet the younger sibling was 4 years old. Senman was in grave danger. The scene switches to Senman, carrying Manabu on his back. The suspected yokai asked him if he was really going to give up and leave. Senman confirmed this, saying that adults should know not to get involved with things that didn't make sense. Unbeknownst to him, the cute kid, Manabu, had dropped all pretenses, taking on a more evil form, his vile aura radiating,